Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I am Heather Austin from ProfessorAustin.com. I'm so excited that you are joining me here today. We have so much fun content planned for you. If you are a job seeker or if you are struggling to land the job that you really want, today's show is going to definitely help you. We are going to be doing a handful of resume reviews on today's show, and I'm also going to be taking you on a sneak peek inside of World Class Career Academy. So if you are not aware, World Class Career Academy is open for enrollment right now. Today is the last day to grab it for the early bird offer. So we will get into all of that in just a minute. I want to know, where are you joining us from today? It looks like a lot of you are here in the chat already. I want to say hi to you guys in just a second. But if you are just joining me today for the first time, my name is Heather Austin. On this channel, I help working professionals just like you how to land their dream job so that they can grow in a field they love. So this channel is all things resumes, interviews, LinkedIn, job seeking, you name it. We cover everything here on this channel. So let me know in the chat, who are you and where are you joining us from today? It looks like we had a bunch of you jump in early. Pete is here. Hello, Pete. Pete, you are coming to us from California. Hello. Aaron. Hello, Aaron. So happy that you made it with us today, is joining us from Pittsburgh. Let's see, we have Seth is joining us today from Toronto. We also have Sonia, hello, joining us from Orange County. Lori is here from Chicago. Oh, I want to say hi to all of you guys. Keep jumping in and keep letting me know that you are here so that I know that you're here. I will be asking you guys questions as we go throughout this live stream. I have a set of resumes that I'm going to review with you today. These are resumes that my community has sent in to me and said, Heather, please help me with my resume. Now, this is going to be a quick overview just to kind of give you guys an idea of what you need to do to have a solid resume so that you can land more interviews and ultimately more job offers. Also, my team is here in the chat with me today. So what you'll want to do is jump in, and if you have any questions about your resume, if you have any questions about job seeking in general, make sure you type the question into the chat. My team is going to pop the question through to me in a private document that we share, and I'll be able to look at all of your questions, and I will spend some time at the end to answer your questions. Now, before I jump into these resume reviews, I'm so excited for these because there's so much fantastic content to cover within these reviews. What I want you guys to do is take notes today. So what you'll end up doing is you'll find out what other people are doing really well in their resume, but you're also going to find out what they're not doing so well. So I want you to kind of learn from other people's mistakes, but also learn from their successes so that you can apply this to your own resume. Now, if you have not watched the live masterclass, I did a live masterclass on Friday, the 5-part formula to make your resume a success. This masterclass link expires tonight. So you want to make sure you jump on over and watch the masterclass. My team will share the masterclass link in the chat for you. It looks like they already have. That masterclass also contains my enrollment page for World Class Career Academy. Let me show you the masterclass really quick. And what I want to know is, were you at the masterclass with me on Friday? If you were at the masterclass with me on Friday, give me an oh yeah. I really need to know if you were there because we had so much fun. In fact, it's really funny. My microphone actually broke a couple times during the masterclass, but we still got an hour and a half, so 90 minutes of content in there for you. If you have not yet watched that masterclass, please, please, please do this. I shared the 5-part formula to make your resume a success. This masterclass was by far my most favorite, hands down, best masterclass I've ever done. So make sure you take a look at that. You can even actually take a look at the chat. We had hundreds of comments coming through during the masterclass, so you can even look at that. I even spent some time answering questions during the masterclass. Let me go ahead and pop my face on here so you guys can see me. Hello. So what you'll do is take a look at that masterclass. It does expire today, so make sure you look at that. You'll also take some time spending on this page where you're going to find out what's inside World Class Career Academy. So if you have not yet been introduced to World Class Career Academy, the early bird special for this program closes tonight at midnight. So that's Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you take a look, scroll through this page. What I want to share with you guys today before we jump into these reviews, I want to share a couple of testimonials with you. So Pam mentioned in her testimonial, she says that after 38 years in one position, she decided that it was time for her to try something new. So she said that she went through the website and took many of my tips that I gave. In the end, what ended up happening to Pam is she says, I applied for 11 positions. She heard back from 8 and she was offered 3. Isn't that amazing? She applied for 11, heard back from 8, and she was offered 3 positions. I also want to scroll down and I want to show you guys another client of mine who has had amazing results. And in fact, I don't even have all of her results posted on this page, but Penelope said as a result of World Class Career Academy, she gained a clearer sense of her professional direction. She says that she created an exceptional CV that was better than her previous one, and she landed a new job as the head of business development. Now, the other neat thing about Penelope is she actually landed 3 after her position as business development. She landed 3 more job offers within like the same, it was probably a 2-week period. And so her biggest challenge was now figuring out, well, which job offer should I take? So amazing results from some of these folks that have been through my program and some of the content on my website and on my channel. Make sure you take a look at those testimonials on my page, and make sure you watch the live masterclass if you have not done that yet, because it contains so much fantastic information. It will change your resume 100% so that you're more confident going into the job market, so that you're more confident going into interviews, and so that you can ask for the salary that you deserve. So I want you guys to take a look at that. Let's jump into the resume reviews. Now, when I was deciding on these resume reviews, it looks like a lot of you were at the workshop. Let me just say, Pete was there, Pepper was there. So glad you guys made it. Anna was there. Yatin was there. Valeria was there. Hello, Apreet. So happy you're here. Erin saw it and Laura saw it. Awesome. You guys, thank you so much for sharing that with me. That was one of my favorite master classes that I've conducted so far. And I actually think I lost my voice for a little bit after, because I was talking for a very, very, very long time. But let's jump into these resume reviews. Now, when I put out a call to action to my email list, I said, hey, do you want me to review your resume? Let me know, send it through. Whenever I do these types of shows, we get hundreds of resume submissions, and I try to pick the resumes that will help like the general public. So a lot of common things that I'm seeing, mistakes, or maybe things that are being listed really well, I will bring those into the review so that those that didn't get chosen to have a review can actually have a better sense of what they can do on their resume. So that's my whole goal behind these resume reviews. I know that if I was in the process of writing my own resume and I didn't have the resources that I needed, I know this would be really, really helpful for me. So I want to tell you this theme, and I always do a theme. If you guys have ever been with me at my resume review shows, I change everyone's name. I hide your contact information so people randomly can't contact you. And I always do a theme. This theme for today's resume review show is rock stars. Okay. So we're talking about famous rock stars. Now, I'm not a huge like rock star fan type person, but my kids helped me come up with these names. So David Bowie was the first one. My 11-year-old said, let's change that one to David Bowie. So this is David Bowie's resume. Hopefully David Bowie is here. He'll know who he is if he's here, or if he is listening to this on the replay. So let's look at David Bowie's resume really quick and just kind of do a quick rundown of what David has done well and maybe what David can improve so that he is getting selected for job interviews and being able to use his resume to leverage his salary. So David Bowie, in his resume, I really like that his name is nice and big, bold font at the top. I like that his contact information is bold, and I do like that he has his email address up here. The only thing I'd recommend here is I would like to see some sort of horizontal line underneath the name to separate the name from everything else, because the name is really what's going to stand out the best. So for example, if I were just to click on that little icon right there, you can see that now he has an underlined under his name. I would love to see him do that. The other thing I would like to see, David, is you need your LinkedIn URL listed inside. You need your LinkedIn URL in your contact information. You don't necessarily even need, notice that he's put his street name, his apartment, and his apartment number and things like that. He doesn't need that. David, you just need to list your city and your state, your zip code's fine, your phone number, your email address, and your LinkedIn profile. So as I scroll through, he has a nice, clear, professional summary. I would actually like to see the word professional summary up above. You could even call it professional profile. You can call it career summary, just to kind of give them an idea of what this next paragraph's about. But I do like that you do have your summary, and I do like that you also are listing core competencies. Now, if you guys have ever seen any of the resume templates that I share with you, I have a professional summary with a core competencies section. Now, if David has more than, 8 to 10 years of work experience, I'm recommending that he does use a 2-page resume. In that case, he could put a professional highlight section on his resume. Now, when it comes to the professional summary, what I want to focus on here is I want this statement inside this summary to tell the company how you're helping them with some of their biggest problems. So for example, David says, highly dedicated and motivated in customer service and sales field. I think that's okay, but I almost think we need to get a little bit more deeper into that sentence. So you need to say with such and such years of experience, or quantify that in some way so that you're showing them, yes, I'm a highly dedicated customer service professional, but why am I that way? How did I get to that? Was it through 2 years of work experience? Was it 10 years of work experience? How did I get there? How am I that way? So rather than just ending it on that, I would put a little bit more explanation into that. He goes on to say, let me just read this last one: training in professional selling, e-commerce, qualifying leads, so on and so forth. What I would rather I really don't necessarily want to see the word training, because that's just saying, oh yeah, I know that stuff. I've had training in that. I want to see expertise in, or specializing in, or specialized skills in. So rather than you just saying that you have some training, we want to get very specific, and let's say expertise in, or specializing in, or something that shows that you are the expert. Now, let's go on to your core competency section. I think this is okay. I do like to see a little bit more other than like just the term sales. Is there something else that we can add to that? Is there like a specific type of sales that you've been doing? So I would really want to focus on getting really specific with these. Now, if you watched the masterclass on Friday, I talked a lot about hard and soft skills, okay? So your hard skills are one thing where you have experience from just education and training and work experience. Your soft skills are more of your personality. I would like to see a combination of those inside the core competency section. Now let's jump down to education and work experience. And I'm going to make a quick note here on formatting for David Bowie's resume. So quick note here on formatting is, notice that education is the same size, or excuse me, all these headings are the same size as the text on the page. I want the headings to be a little bit larger. So I would go probably 2 point larger. And notice, David, I'm going to throw an underline again underneath that section so that that section is standing out, because it all starts to blend together. We need to have a distinct separation. So again, that's what I would do. And I'm not going to apply it to all. I'm just showing you kind of the example of what you would do. Now let's talk about if you're going to list education or work experience first. Now, if your education is very, very recent, which it looks like you do have just in August of 2019, congratulations, that's very, very recent. You did receive a Bachelor of Business Administration and Marketing. So I do think that in that case, you can list education first. However, if your work experience weighs more heavily, which remember, what hiring officials are looking for is your most relevant experience. If your work experience weighs more heavy than your education, list the work experience first and then follow with a nice solid education section. If you are a recent grad and you don't have a lot of work experience to speak to what it is that you can do, then you can list your education first. I think that's fine. I think you have your other, let's see, you have a certificate. The other thing I would mention here, with certificates, diplomas, other specialized training, if that certificate or diploma does not relate to the position you're applying for, you don't need to include it on the resume. However, if it does relate and it's something that will give you more leverage for your interviews and salary negotiation, definitely include it on there. Okay, let's talk about how he is listing his, let's see, he has his title and the company name with the location and then the date. I like that the dates are right aligned. I think that's great. I do like also that you're including a couple bullet points. My recommendation is to keep it consistent. I would have more than 2 bullet points on each item. So you have just 2, I would list 3 or 4. What's going to happen if you list 3 or 4 is notice that that's going to extend the length of your resume. So if you do list more items, you might even need to eliminate your awards and honors section, which is okay. You can do that. And instead you can put some of that, like I noticed that some of this has to do with your education. You can put some of that up into the education section. So don't be afraid to do that. Also, don't be afraid to change margins and font size to get everything to fit. But let's talk about the content really quick. When it comes to your content, when we are talking about our achievement statements or what we're telling the individual what it is that we've done, we always want to start with some sort of action verb. So you've noticed in here, he has the action verb increased. But here's the problem that I'm seeing is that this is a present position. So if you're currently here, you need to be talking about what you're doing right now, not what you've done in the past. What are you doing right now? So you can take out the word increased and put increase sales of additional services by 4% and then turn that into like an accomplishment statement. Like, what are you doing to increase those sales? Okay. And then also, you have continuously saved the company thousands of dollars in fraudulent damage claims by performing thorough vehicle inspections. I like that. I think that's okay because I think what you're doing here is you're saying, this is what I'm doing. This is the result of it. Let's get a little bit more. I would like to see some sort of like action verb in here as well. I think that would help as well. Okay, these are also really good. Again, I want to see it beefed up just a little bit more. Can we add something else to each of these positions so that it really looks like you had a significant amount of work experience? So I would almost say to add one more bullet point to each section. Also, keep in mind you have some of your sentences that have periods at the end and some of them that don't. So notice this is again where you having someone proofread your resume is really, really helpful. But notice I'm just putting periods at the very end of all these sentences. Make sure you go in and do that. Okay, remember, my team is in the chat with you guys here today. If you have any questions, please pop them in. They are going to bring them through to me in a document so that I can answer them at the end. I do have some more resumes to review here. David Bowie, overall, you did pretty good. We do have a few little places for improvement that I think will definitely bid you well in your resume writing. So let's jump to our next one. Do you guys know who Stevie Nicks is? Stevie Nicks is a famous singer from a while ago. Okay, let's look at Stevie's resume. I know you guys can see it, but let me get it in front of me so I can see it. Okay. So Stevie Nicks, and it looks like I have Buzz Off Honey is here. Hello, I'm so glad that you made it back. It's great to have you in the chat. I haven't seen you in the chat for a little while. Okay, so Stevie Nicks, her resume, what I wanted to emphasize on this resume is notice how she is using like a horizontal line to separate each section, which I think is fantastic. Again, the resume that we noticed earlier does not have that. So we want to make sure that you have the underline under your name. She's using a double underline, which is okay. You can even just use a single underline. But under each section, we're really having them clearly defined with the underline. The other thing I like here is what she's done is she is capitalizing each section heading. Okay, so we have professional summaries capitalized, work experiences capitalized, Let's see what other sections she has on here. Education, academic projects, so on and so forth. So again, this is a 2-page resume example, and I'll talk about that as we look through her resume. But that's one of the things that I like. The only other thing I'd recommend here on Stevie, you don't need your street address, but do include your LinkedIn URL if you have one. If you don't have a LinkedIn URL, a custom LinkedIn URL, you definitely need to get that. So make sure you take a look at my previous trainings about how to do that if you don't already know how to do that. Okay, so she is saying she's an ex-university graduate with a master's degree in biological sciences and an undergraduate degree in medical sciences, held various jobs working with children, so on and so forth. Okay, here's what I want you to do, Stevie. On your resume, I think it's fantastic that let me look at your graduation date again. I just want to make sure. Okay, so it is very recent, so it does make sense for you to share that up, share that in the beginning. However, what I want you to keep in mind, because you're not listing your education right after the professional summary, is it that you need to start with your your graduation right up front? Or do we want to talk about some of those things that you can help that company do? So yes, your master's degree in biological sciences is fantastic, but let's dig a little bit deeper and let's tell them, what are we going to help them do with that degree that we have? Okay, is there a specialized skill that you learned while you were in your studies? Is there what is it that you can share with them that tells them, hey, I'm here and I can help you with some of your major problems? And then you mention the degrees further inside of that summary, if that's what they're really looking for. Again, they want to know what type of experience do you have that can help them solve some of those biggest problems. I do like that you've listed X University, which is the name of the company. So the other resume we looked at before, they're actually just listing the individual listed the title first, okay? One of the things that you want to consider doing is listing the company name first and then the title. And this resume has done a fantastic job of that. And then we're going into, again, our accomplishment statements where we are talking about investigated original research, questions using molecular and imaging techniques, and applied thinking skills to evaluate information. Okay, I think that's good. The only thing that I'm seeing that we could definitely make an improvement here, Stevie, is let's quantify some of this, okay? So what I mean by quantify, and again, if you missed the live masterclass on Friday, I talked all about how to measure your performance with numbers, percentages, data, whatever forms of measurement you can use. Let's measure something. So did you increase something in some way? Did you decrease something in some way? Go back to that live masterclass and watch the part where I talk about how to quantify your accomplishments, because again, I think this resume is moving in the right direction. We just need to have more of these items quantifiable, because that's what employers are really, really looking for. They want to know at the end of the day, how are you really helping others, or how can you help them, and what have you done in the past to demonstrate that? Teaching assistant looks good. Laboratory skills plus tester. I think the formatting looks good. I do think that the sentences and all your structure looks fantastic. Again, let's get more of these quantified. Now, what I do notice, however, Stevie, is notice that one of your positions is going on to the second page. We never, ever, ever want that to happen. Okay, if you have a position and it's not all the way listed on the first page and it's going into the second page, you need to fix something somewhere so that it all happens on the first page. Or the other thing you would do is just take out this last position and put that onto the second page. So either play with your margins, play with your font size. You are using a 12-point font. If I select this whole entire document and I change the font to an 11-point, let me just see what that does. You'll have to kind of play around with that, and of course, you'll have to increase your name. But there we go. Now we have a little bit more space to play with. So now notice that last position does not go onto a second page. Okay, so that's one way to do it. I'm just gonna undo what I've done because I want to give you a good idea of what else needs to be fixed here. Education looks good. You've listed it nice and neat. I love, and keep in mind for anyone that has education and they are listing, I love how you've listed the education and the location on one line, and then you're listing the degree on the second line. I love that formatting. So fantastic. With that. So anyone else that has that, make sure you list your education the same. Academic projects, I think this is great. You have a couple bullet points in here. That's good. You're also listing your volunteer experience, and you're also listing your awards. Now, the one thing I do want to mention, we never, ever, ever want to put on a resume references available upon request. Okay. We need to eliminate that before we send our resume to anyone else, because references available on request is sort of like a given. It's sort of like, yes, I have references, and yes, you can contact them. It's almost like saying, hello, I'm here. Like you never want to have that on a resume, just because it's already a given. They already know that if they're going to reach out to your references, they will, they definitely will. So make sure if any of you have that on your resume, you can get rid of that. Okay, I want to hear from you guys now. Are you learning something from these resume reviews? Give me an oh yeah in the chat if you are. Give me an oh yeah in the chat, or give me a yes in the chat if you are, and I will move on to our resume reviews. We have a couple more. We have Cyndi Lauper and who's our other individual? Oh, Freddie Mercury. Okay, Cyndi Lauper and Freddie Mercury. Okay, before I jump into Cyndi Lauper's resume review, so Cindy actually sent me her resume a while ago, and I'm finally getting to the review right now. What I want to remind you guys, if you have not watched the live masterclass from Friday, please, please, please watch that masterclass. It is 90 minutes of teaching you guys everything that you need to know to make your resume better. It's the 5-part formula. To make your resume a success. Make sure you take a look at that. Let me pop over to the workshop page really quick. The workshop page is also my enrollment page for World Class Career Academy. Remember that this page actually expires. Let me take myself off so you can see our countdown timer. This page actually expires in 14 hours. So in 14 hours, this workshop will not be available anymore. This page will not be available anymore. So make sure you jump over to this page as soon as we're finished here today. If you have not seen the workshop, watch the workshop. You can even take a look at the chat here. See all the awesome questions that came in. I had 2 of my team members there helping me sort through all the questions. I know I couldn't get to all of them, but 90 minutes was our limit. So we had to shut it off there. If you are interested in World Class Career Academy, today is the last day to grab it for the early bird offer. After today, it goes up to regular price. So again, if you have been thinking about this program or you're on the fence, please review this enrollment page. This will tell you everything you need to know. It's going to give you some really good ideas of what's inside the program, what some of the results other people have experienced while they were in the program, using some of the resources. I know you guys have already met Penelope. This is a quick overview of what's inside. I have bonuses, I have extra workshops, I have extra courses. Here's Laura. You guys, if you haven't seen her story yet, her story is one of my favorites. She actually, using the content inside the program, applied for a job at 1:39 p.m. and got a call back for an interview at 2:02 p.m. So 23 minutes later, she ended up getting a job interview. Also, she was actually working with her local employment office. Excuse me, when she went in to have them review her resume, they said, we've never seen a resume that didn't ever need changes. And her resume was the very first resume that they said she didn't need any changes. So she went at it. They gave her kudos on her cover letter as well. And the other cool thing, Laura learned how to use LinkedIn. So she's one of my favorite students. So take a look at that live masterclass if you have not yet seen it. Let's jump in to Cyndi Lauper's resume. True story, I actually did meet Cyndi Lauper once, not really, but I passed her on the street. And you know, when you meet someone famous, you're like, oh, it's someone famous. And your heart starts beating really fast and you're like, what? I don't even know that person. Why do I even care? But it's really true. We met her in New York City. She was walking past. Of course, she had like her entourage of people, and it's almost like you want to reach out and touch them, right? But they're just like you and I. I don't know why it would be any different, but I do love Cyndi Lauper. Okay, so here is Cyndi's resume. I love the big, bold name at the top. Fantastic. I actually do like this separation. I don't think that there's anything wrong with how she has this separated. I normally like to place the horizontal line under the name. What I think this is, though, Cyndi, is I think this is a table. Yes. Okay. That's right. This isn't a table. And what I want to recommend doing is we never want to use tables or columns on our resume. The reason why is that it jars up the system if you ever have to have your resume ran through an applicant tracking software of some sort, okay? So I like to keep tables and columns out of the resume templates or any of the resumes that I use, so I'd recommend doing that. I do like, however, Cyndi, that you have your LinkedIn URL on here. That's fantastic. I wonder if Cyndi Lauper really does have a LinkedIn page. That would be hilarious if she did. You don't need to include your street name. Again, I know this is a common occurrence from the resumes that I've seen. You don't need to include your street name. Security purposes, with us submitting resumes like all out there, Pete says, I love Cyndi Lauper too. I love it. Yeah, she's historic, isn't she? Anyway, or iconic, maybe that's the better word for it. So when it comes to, what was I even talking about? When it comes to, street address, leave that off for security reasons. If you're submitting your resume to online job sites and it's like a document that's being passed around from here and there, you don't need to put it on there. Just include city, state, zip, phone number, email address, and LinkedIn URL. Okay, awesome. I love that Cyndi is starting with experienced. Okay, we have our action verb there within the banking industry with demonstrated work history of working. Okay, that sort of like just stopped me in my tracks. That was a sentence that we need to go into more detail on, Cyndi. So again, let's talk about, and let me show you guys one of these templates. I do want to show this really quick because this is one of the templates inside of World Class Career Academy. And this actually shows you, let me zoom in because this is one of my favorite in terms of professional summaries here. And I think that Cyndi and maybe some of you others could really benefit from this. But notice in this template, I'm starting with some really good action verbs. So I'm saying reliable, energetic, and resourceful, sales, marketing, and consulting professional. And then notice I'm popping in with a big, huge, with 15 years of experience and then telling them what that experience has been, okay? So we need to get a little bit more quantifiable with these resumes. We need to tell them exactly what is it that we are doing here. How many years of experience do we have? How can we help them? Again, we're focusing on how can we help them. Now, if we jump back to Cyndi's resume here, we are telling them that yes, we're experienced within the banking industry, but what type of experience do you have? Like, let's get super specific. So if I jump down to your work experience history, you've already told me that you're a mortgage processor. Okay, let's get some more action words inside that summary that really catch them like within the first couple seconds and get them reading more. Okay. Let's see. And then also again, quantify how many years of experience. It looks like you have quite a bit of experience. You need to get that in there. You need to tell them how many years of experience you have in that industry. Also, I would like to see the same thing here where you list something about specialized skills in or expertise in. Let me show you this, the template that's inside of World Class Career Academy. Well, one of the many templates. Notice in this example, I have expertise in, and I'm going on to tell them what my expertise are. Now, inside of World Class Career Academy, I teach you line by line what to say in your summary. I break it down into the first sentence should say this, the second sentence should say this, the third sentence should say this, and if you have a fourth sentence, this is what it should say. I also take you kind of step by step through your professional highlights section, core competencies, work experience, and things like that. But Cyndi, I think that that's really just what we need to do with your summary is we really just need to break it down a little bit more and really show them the value that you can provide. Now, experience, what I would recommend doing here, I know that you have the date listed at the top. I like dates listed on the right-hand side, so I would actually align that to the right. I do like that you have the title in caps, and I actually do like that you have the name of the company in caps. I would switch those around so that the name of the company is first and then the title is second. This is especially valuable if you are working for a larger company that is well known. This catches the eye a little bit better. Next thing here, Cindy, but I do like the formatting of the capitalization, and I even like the dash of color. I think that's good. I don't think there's anything wrong with having some color in there. Okay, the other thing that you definitely need to do here, Cindy, is you need to have bullet points. So when we have a resume that is just like a paragraph of information, it makes it so much harder to read. We need them to be able to see your bullet points right away and see what it is that you've done. Now, let me show you the example inside the toolkit and inside of World Class Career Academy just one more time. You'll notice here on this example, I do have a paragraph of information here. And again, this is going to be a format that someone with more of a professional level or executive level resume formatting would need. I have a paragraph of information here stating either what the company is or what my overarching theme was while I was at the company, but then notice the bullet points underneath. This is what we need to see in your resume, Cindy. We need to see some bullet points in here. Right now, it's kind of jumbled bits of information. Now, let me go back to the paragraphs though. When I write my LinkedIn profiles, I'd love to see paragraphs inside the work experience section, but very quick, easy to read paragraphs because it's a little bit more personal. And then in the resume, I like to have bullet points. But in terms of like the spacing on your page, if you can just get those bullet points in there, that's going to extend your work experience and the information onto page 2 a little bit, or excuse me, page 1 a little bit better, because notice how you have a large amount of white space there. We want to eliminate that white space. Education looks good. Looks like it's recent. Very, very good. Skills. Now, this is what I would like to see you do. I don't want to just see skills. I want to see something like specialized skills, or I want to see what types of skills are these. So yes, this could be a mini core competency section here, but again, this isn't telling me a whole lot. Yes, we know that you have attention to detail, and I think that's great. But let's get a little bit more specific with that, and that's where almost you could probably use a professional highlight section where you talk a little bit more about that. Activities. Okay, this is really good. I'm so glad that I chose your resume for this, Cindy, because when it comes to activities or hobbies or things like that, we want to leave all that off of our resume because we're going to talk about that in an interview when the time comes. So what I would recommend doing here instead is I would recommend, do you have any professional memberships that you can add? Do you have any awards or honors that you can add? What are some things that you can add that are going to give them a better idea of how you're going to perform in the workplace, okay? Yes, your personal life is important, but they don't want to know about that right now. They don't need to know that. They will ask you more about that as you go through the interview process, and if you are looking at jumping in, like second or third interview is when you can start opening up about some of your enjoyable activities that you do. But we don't want to put that on the resume. However, I do notice here you said I volunteer at Habitat for Humanity with Bremer, I think is how you say it, Bank. Okay, you need to have like a separate section that just talks about this, okay? That's what we want. We want to see that volunteer experience. So I'd change skills into technical skills. I would change activities into professional memberships if you have them, or volunteer experience. So we got to think outside the box just a little bit to really beef up these sections. But overall, Cindy, such a good job. We just have a few little tweaks and changes to make here. Now I have one more, and let's see, who is this lucky guy, Freddie Mercury. I didn't even know who that was, but my 11-year-old son did. Remember, I said my kids helped me choose all the rock star names for this resume review. So Freddie Mercury's next. Before we jump into Freddie's resume, I do have a couple things to share about his resume. I want to remind you guys, the workshop, our live masterclass, expires today. So if you did not see the live masterclass on Friday, please jump over and watch that. It does expire today. You definitely want to make sure you jump in and take a look at the live masterclass. You will also see the enrollment page. So this is the enrollment page for World Class Career Academy. Remember, early bird offer expires when this workshop expires. So make sure you take a look at that. This was such a fantastic workshop. It was 90 minutes of showing you guys exactly how to make your resume a success. So again, make sure you take a look at that if you have not yet seen it. Now, I want to know, give me a yes in the comments if this has been helpful for you. Give me a yes in the comments if the resume reviews have been helpful. Again, I am going to take a couple minutes. It looks like we have some really good questions in here already. I do want to take a couple minutes to answer your questions specifically about resumes. So again, if you were here with me on Friday, we had so many questions, and I promised my team I'd only be online for 90 minutes. And so I had to cut it off at 90 minutes. But if I didn't answer your question on Friday, we do have a couple minutes here. I know I like to talk a lot, if you guys can tell, and I'm a little bit long-winded. So I will try my hardest to get through with our last resume review so that we can answer your questions. So let's jump into Freddie Mercury. Again, Pete says, yes, this is super helpful. Yes, Edwin says, you didn't know who Freddie Mercury was? No, I live under a rock. I just want to tell you. Aaron says, yes. Let's see. Chazella says, yes. Buzz Off Honey says, yes. Lindsay says, yes. Oh, I'm so glad you guys are enjoying this. Okay, let's do our very last resume review here, Freddie Mercury. So this resume, when it came in, I thought, okay, I've got to definitely get this through to the critique, because I do get a lot of resumes that look very similar to this, and I'm going to point out what's done well and what we could use improvement on. So Freddie, love that the name is in big bold at the top. Again, if you guys have been listening to this, I like to have some sort of underline or some sort of defining factor that brings attention more to your name. So I would almost place an underline under your name. You don't need street name. You don't need street address or things like that. Just city, state, zip, phone number, email address, and again, LinkedIn URL. We need your LinkedIn URL. It has to be a custom LinkedIn URL. It can't be the URL that's like 81567AB, whatever. Okay. It has to be like the custom LinkedIn URL. You have to customize your LinkedIn URL. Okay, summary. What I want to do here, Freddie, is I want to see professional summary. So let's add either the word professional summary, professional profile, career summary, career profile, whatever it is that you want to choose, you can add that here. Make sure it's also larger than the other sections, okay? You have an underline here under relevant experience, but we need to have that under summary as well, because we want to define that section. It's the same size as the other content. Let's bring it up just a little bit. So notice I popped it up to a 12. Also, I would not indent the summary. So you actually have it indented. I wouldn't do that. I would bring it right off to the side here. And then just, I don't know why I like to do that. I just like the formatting nice and neat. The indentation sort of like confuses me a little bit. But if you have the underline, I also wouldn't include that quotation or that colon there. You don't need that. Okay, again, I want to refer to the template inside of the World Class Career Academy, because I want to show you guys again on this template. Notice at the very top how I am including some really nice actionable words. Reliable, energetic, and resourceful. That's what we want to see on your resume, Freddie. And these words that you're using relate specifically to the job that you're applying for. If you whatever words you have in that spot, that's what they're looking for. Okay, remember, those are the words that you need to put inside there. So you do say versatile professional. So what you could say is you could say something like versatile, resourceful, and whatever. And then you go on to talk about your experience. I do like that you're saying expertise in operations, corporate finance. I would almost include that at the very end. And then include your how many years of experience, because that's what they're going to be looking at. Include that in that very first sentence. And again, Freddie, if you missed in the template here, let me just show that again really quick. Notice in here, we are saying with over 15 years of work experience, such and such, and then we include our expertise at the end. Okay, so there is if you guys saw the masterclass on Friday, there is sort of like a scientific way to write a resume. Now, it's a little bit dorky, I know, but there is also a scientific way to write the professional summary. So I walk you through exactly how to do that inside the program. But I would recommend, just making a few of those changes. Also, I don't like the word relevant experience, because to me, basically everything we should be listing here is relevant. I would just include the word experience. I wouldn't even say work history or work experience. I would just say experience. Okay. So I would eliminate the word relevant there. Okay, MS Investment Management, Boston. Okay, I love that you're listing the name of the company first. You have the dates here, which is fantastic. So this is actually a really good example of when you work for one company and you have multiple positions. Notice what Freddie's doing is listing the dates off to the left. I would like to see months. The reason why I want to see months on here is that if you ever have to pass your resume through an applicant tracking system again, what's going to happen is they want to see months and years. If you're just including the year, it sort of throws this system off. We need to have a month-year format in order for it to read properly. So that's what I would recommend in terms of that. But I like how you've enabled long-term investment decisions. So good. We have some really good quantifiable accomplishments here. Developed and presented investment recommendations to portfolio managers and the high yield research team after. I think that's good. I think this is good. There's not a lot that I would recommend on your bullet points, except for and we don't need to quantify everything. Quantify as much as you can. So let's jump down to, notice how you have a quantifiable measurement here, numbers, data, percentages, time, whatever it is. We need to get that on here. Okay, this also, I like how you have the company name listed. I'm not sure about listing the ticker and then receivables management and then the Forbes top 100. I'm not sure about listing that there. I would actually almost list that in your as a notation, or excuse me, not a notation, but as a bullet point inside the work experience. The other thing you could do, however, and I think your resume would do well with this, is a professional highlights section. So again, if we look at the example here, your resume is long enough that we can add a professional highlights section in there. And that's where you would talk about the Forbes 100 company. Okay. And then you could also add a competencies section. So hopefully that makes sense. I know that it's a lot probably to look at all in one time. But that's kind of the recommendation that I would give for your resume, Freddie. Again, same thing here. We never want one position to be listed on one page and then it overflowing onto the second. We definitely need to make sure that we get rid of that. Okay, next thing here, skills. Again, I would like to see like some sort of technical skills or something to that effect here rather than just skills. Let's get a little bit more specific with that. Also, you could separate that into language competencies. That could be one section. You could have software skills. That could be another section. But I would just focus more on that. And making it so that it's a little bit more, flows a little bit more smoothly with the top part of your resume. Education looks good. And then when you say education / credentials, I don't even know if you need the word credentials, except for, okay, you do have a financial analyst. I think that's good. I would almost like to see that. Is there any way you could add that to like its separate section? Because that seems like a fairly big deal, especially if that's the types of positions that you're moving into. The other thing too that you could do is add this to like a professional highlight section. You can also add this to your professional summary section. So these are some really big items here that you can add on to that. Now, second page, if we are using a second page resume format, remember, you have to fill the entire page. We never want to have a 1.5 page resume. We're either going to go a full 1 or a full 2, never 1.5. So again, Freddie Mercury, that's where I think you would be very well suited to do your professional highlights and a core competency section. So fantastic, you guys. I want to answer your questions before we close off today. We have a bunch in here, so I'm going to go through and answer them. Again, the live masterclass expires today. If you have not yet seen it, make sure you take a look at that. The other thing that expires today is the early bird enrollment offer. Now, World Class Career Academy is still open for enrollment through Thursday. Okay, Thursday it closes down. The program's not going to open up again for the group coaching portion until April of next year. So the year 2020 is when this program will open again. I'm going to be 100% dedicated to all the students that have already enrolled and that will be enrolling before Thursday. So the program will close doors on Thursday. However, if you want the early bird offer, that ends today in just a couple hours. So make sure you take a look at that. Now let's do some quick questions here. Pete, I love that you're in the chat so early today. Pete says, I was wondering about the LinkedIn URL placement. I like it in the contact info too. Yes, 100%. You always need to have your LinkedIn URL in there. This is the fact of the matter. LinkedIn is growing and growing and growing. Hiring officials, recruiters, almost 100% of them are now using LinkedIn. Now, unless you're applying with a local, smaller agency that might not be using LinkedIn, it's not going to be a big deal, but let me tell you, that's the way of the future. You need to have your LinkedIn URL inside your contact information. Pepper, hello. So glad you're here. Pepper says, should we include internship clerical rotations as part of our work experience, or should we put a separate internship section for a recent nutrition graduate? Well, there's a couple ways you could do this, Pepper. You could include it in your work experience. This is how I look at it. Work experience is work experience, whether it's volunteer or contract or freelance or paid. If you have experience doing something that is going to help you get your next job, I would include it under your work experience section, but I would just list it as experience. Okay. So again, let me show the toolkit and the template that I use inside World Class Career Academy. We have just experience. Okay. That's what we could include that position under there. Now, if you have multiple positions that are internship, you could have just a separate internship section. However, if you don't have multiple positions and it looks a little bit nicer if they're all kind of grouped together, I think it's okay to put it under experience. And then when you go into the interview, then talk about it. Say that was an internship. Even if it was an internship or clinical rotations, you're still working, you're still getting experience. So in my mind, that falls under experience. Han Ying, hello, you were here on Friday. So glad that you're here today too. Do we need to spell out the month or can we just abbreviate using the short notation? Yes, okay, this is perfect. You can do either or. Now, from the research I've done and kind of from what I'm learning from like resume writers and all the other career people in my industry is that applicant tracking systems do better if you put the month in an abbreviated format. So if you guys can look at his comment, I'll even pop it in. Let me see if I can copy this and pop it into the chat so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, I just put that into the chat. That's the format that I just popped into the chat where it's the year and then the slash and then the month/year. That's what applicant tracking systems are looking at right now. That's how they want you to do it, okay? So you could, but they still do read month if you spell the whole month out, and they still do read year. So, see what it looks like on your end. If you're fine with using the applicant tracking system way and you're submitting a lot of your resume through applicant tracking systems, definitely do like the month listed in a number. Sonia, hello. So glad you're here. Sonia says, what is the rule of thumb for font and font type and size? Oh my goodness. Sonia, you need to go watch the live masterclass that I did on Friday because we talked a lot about this. And I'll just quickly share with you. Font type, I actually give you like a list of fonts to use and a list of fonts not to use. So I want you to go watch the masterclass to catch that. In terms of the font size, we never want to go less than a 9-point font. A 10 point. We never want to go bigger than a 12 point. I like to go with an 11 point and see how it goes. If I need to fudge some room just a little bit, I'll change the font size from there. Yateen, hello, says, if one is looking for a job in the present company, but in another country, do you still give similar weightage to knock referrals door by someone else in the country where the position is open? Okay, so what I think you're asking is you are working for the company, but you want to still stay with the company, but it's in another country. Let me tell you, even if you are working with a company and you're trying to get into another position and you're in another country, yes, referrals. You guys, listen, I talked all about this during our live workshop last week. By the way, if you haven't seen that, you can jump over and watch that. Those also are expiring this week. Our 3-day live career breakthrough series last week that I did, I talked all about this. Even referrals are huge, even if you are still working for the company. When I was working and I was moving up from a program chair to the academic dean, and then before I was almost about to move into a campus president position, before I got pregnant with my first child, I was constantly networking. I didn't care. I was already in the company. I was constantly talking to whoever I could that was making the big decisions. Okay. And they knew me, they knew my work history, but I was always networking, even inside of my company with the key decision makers. Okay. So never stop doing that. Okay. Edwin, hello. So happy that you joined us today. Edwin says, how do we quantify information when we don't have a system for it? We don't always know the specific numbers. This is where a really good, it's really good to journal, to like take notes of things that you're doing, projects you're working on, things like that you that are coming your way, so that you can really figure out, how am I quantifying this? Now, Edwin, I'm not sure if you saw the workshop on the masterclass on Friday, but I shared a couple slides with you on things that you can actually quantify. So make sure you take a look at that, and I kind of break down a little bit more about the measurement and how you can do that. But again, taking notes, looking at old performance reviews, looking at old emails that you have, just to kind of refresh your memory on what you've done. Quantifying is difficult. It's not an easy thing. It's going to take a little bit of brain power and a little bit of thinking. But the more that you are tuned into that, the easier it's going to get, and things will start popping up for you, and you'll say, oh yeah, I need to put that down. Corey, hello, you joined us today. So happy you're here. Corey says the different color fonts are okay. Yes, but very subtly. So if you're changing your font, like a title or like in the summary, in fact, let me show you it, you guys, really quick. And I know we're gonna close up here today. The headlines on this template inside of World Class Career Academy, it's just like a dark blue, like a navy. You could even change it to like a green. I wouldn't do anything more than that unless you are specifically applying for a position in like a graphic design or artistic digital design industry. Cassandra, you made it. So happy to see you. Cassandra says, on a resume, what's the best way to show promotions within the same company? Oh, we had an example of that. If you look at, was it Freddie's resume that did that? He kind of shows, yeah, it was Freddie's resume. And I actually like this format. Let me show you this if I can get to his resume again. Notice how, here he's listed the length that he was in each position, but then you'll notice like off to the right hand side he has dates, and then he's just listing one position. So I love that. And I do like, I actually don't normally underline the company, but in this situation, because he has to break it up into two separate positions, I like that it's that the company name is underlined, because that separates it just a little bit more from the rest of the resume. Good question, Cassandra. Okay, Sonia says, should each title listed, let's see, should each title listed for each role be centered? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of centering the resume. So I like to keep everything nice and neat, aligned to the left. I do like to have the name centered in some occasions and the contact information. Now, in this example, it's left aligned, but you could easily try this as a center, okay? But I wouldn't center anything else. Good question, Kate. We're going to take a few more. I know I promised my team again an hour. You guys got to thank my team. They are so amazing. I couldn't go live without them being here with me, and they take time out of their precious day to be here with you guys and make sure that I'm getting questions answered. So, okay, Edwin, another question says, sometimes people write relevant experience because they also have other sections called work history, mostly to show what they have done and to clarify and I think, Edwin, that was probably, I'm not sure if that was a question, probably just a comment. Good comment though. Shazal says, is listing 10 years of work experience too much or positions that are similar? Okay, I'm going to recommend our live masterclass again on Friday because we covered this exact topic. You really don't want to go any further than 10 to 15 years of work experience. Remember that companies are looking for what you're doing right now or what you've done in your recent history that's going to help them solve the problems and fill that gap, okay? So we want to keep everything on our resume very relevant. Lindsay, should we put continuing education courses? Yes, 100%. She's saying in the professional highlights or education section, always have your continuing education courses. I'm not opposed to putting it in education. If you have a larger degree that's going to weigh heavier, list that first and then list the education under it. Continuing education. However, let me tell you, you can put it in the professional highlight section too. You can actually repeat things, word them slightly different, but you can repeat things as you put things on your resume. If that continuing education course is going to make or break the interview for you, meaning are you going to get this interview? Or is it something that they're going to say, okay, this person has this course, let's bring them in for an interview. If it weighs that heavily, you want to have it up top somewhere, like in a professional highlight section. Good question. GH, hello. If you worked for only 3 weeks, would you put August 2019? I'm not even sure if I would mention it on like a separate work section, GH, in terms of if it was just a 3-week position. I would almost mention that somewhere else on your resume. You could put it as a bullet point in a professional highlights. You could mention it like the experience you gained inside of your professional summary. If it's a position that you're currently in and it's only been 3 weeks, yes, you can list it, but I wouldn't necessarily devote a whole section to that position just for a 3-week position. Buzz off honey, good question. Should I update LinkedIn so it reflects my revised resume or leave in due to more available space and an ability to make connections with coworkers from those earlier employers? Yes, you always want to have your LinkedIn. I'm just trying to think of what your question is. You always want to have your LinkedIn profile updated 100%. You do want to keep in mind, what I think you're asking is, if you update it, are like coworkers and employers going to notice? I guess I'm not really sure about what your question is. But keep your LinkedIn profile updated. Network with everyone inside the company that you're currently working in. Get those connections under your belt. Just send them a quick connection request. It's like, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. We both work for this company. Or if you find someone that you want to connect with, say, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. I noticed that you do this. I'm very interested in this industry. Something to that effect. Babu, hello, says, hi, Professor. How about the margin? Should I create my resume in A4 or A3? Okay, when it comes to your margins and your page formatting, I talked a lot about this on Friday at the live masterclass as well. I don't like to go any larger than a 1-inch margin, and I don't like to go any smaller than a 0.75-inch margin. So again, we want to keep that white space so that it's very easy for the employer to read. Okay, couple more questions, guys, and then we are going to tune out for the day. Pete says, should I submit my resume in PDF format or Word format? Such a good question. I would actually refer to the job posting and what they are looking for. Some companies want PDF, some companies want both, Word. You could always submit both if they're asking for both. One format works better for applicant tracking systems than another. I would actually have both versions on hand at all times. Refer to the job posting. If the job posting does not mention anything, I think PDF format's fine. It depends on the job and if they're going to be submitting it through an applicant tracking system. Okay, Edwin, how do you feel about online courses? Udemy, Lynda, Skillshare, Coursera, should they be included in education certificates, a separate online education section, or not to mention it on a resume? Oh, this is so good. Okay, so you guys know, if you guys have been listening to me for a while, you know that I've actually been teaching on the university level for 15 years, basically. I've been teaching online specifically for 10, and I've taught for large universities and colleges. When it comes to these other course platforms, and I'm not opposed to them, I think that they're great. I think there's so much content and they're valuable. You have to remember that anyone with any sort of knowledge or experience can go out there and create a course on these platforms. Even you could, which I think if you have that desire and that drive, you should do it. When it comes to like an official university course, there is a much more rigorous. When I create courses for a university, and this is how I've structured my program, World Class Career Academy, it is like a 6-month, like you're making sure there's no copyright issues. You're making like, it is you have laws and regulations, and all the lessons have to be written a specific way. So it's a very rigorous process when a professor like me or any other professor creates a course for a larger university. However, if I were to create a course for Lynda or Skillshare or any of these, I don't have to follow that same level of education. So I would be very careful to mention it on your resume unless it is going to hands down help you get the job. Because I still believe in these platforms, but at the end of the day, they don't have that same value that you might find from like a university course or a college course or, and I only know this because I've been creating college courses for 15 years. So I understand the process between both. So I would just be careful. If it does relate to the job, you can list it under your education section, but really you're taking these courses to hopefully further your pursuit or your career, but just be careful. I would be really careful of that. Okay, a couple more questions. Min Y says, should I include college GPA when I graduated 2 years ago? I don't think it's necessary unless you have like a 4.0 GPA or 3.7 or 3.8 to that effect. Pete says, I was wondering about the resume format for the ATS because I think it reads Word format. Yes, Pete, you're right. Applicant tracking systems do read Word format better than PDF. PDF's nice to have though when you're submitting just to a person. So if you're submitting that resume to a person, then yeah, do the PDF. But if you know it's going to go through an applicant tracking system, keep it in a Word format. Pete, last question. I've heard that CV is not the same as a resume. As a work professional, should I avoid putting CV in the title when submitting my resume? Oh, such a good question, Pete. You are asking some fantastic questions. It depends on your location. So I work with clients from all over the world. A resume in the United States is not the same as a resume in like France or Europe or another country. They call it a CV. So wherever you're located, Pete, you have to name it what it is. Now, in the United States, a CV is a curriculum vitae. It's actually a very, very long, lengthy, detailed resume. This is what more individuals in academia use. I have a CV that will list like published work, whatever you've done, your research. That's a CV in the United States, but a CV in Europe is what we call a resume here in the United States. So wherever you're located, you got to keep that name what it is. Okay, you guys are awesome. I'm so happy that you joined me today for this quick little resume review. Remember, We do have the Masterclass expiring today. Make sure if you haven't yet seen it, you need to jump on over, watch the Masterclass. Early bird enrollment for World Class Career Academy expires today. Such good content. If you guys think this is good, World Class Career Academy is basically this on steroids, okay? And I don't have any other analogy to think of, but it is. So if you've been thinking about the program, you are going to get 20 times the instruction, the guidance, the resources that you've gotten here today. So I hope to see you guys inside that program. If you have any questions at all, please email me or my team. Tori's here again answering questions for you guys in the chat. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm so thrilled that you joined me today, and I will see you guys in my next live stream.